yourself, right? That's why for any sport, whether it's your golf swing, right, whether it's your boxing technique, whether it's whatever, you're all these athletes are always reviewing video of themselves, and that's because they need to see what they're doing, because you think you're doing it one way, but in reality you're like, oh wow, I'm not at all doing it that way, you know what I mean? And that's the only way you're going to improve on these things.
I saw a clip of myself in one of the episodes because you guys were sending some stuff around, and I'm like, even my podcast form looks awful. Like, I finally got used to, I think we've all gotten used to our voices, but then the visuals, like a whole nother, like 2020, I gotta just get used to looking at my,
that's a whole nother frontier.
I know.
No, but that's the thing, like our own projected images of ourselves are always partially a lie. You know, they're always partially a lie. And I think that transcends into a lot of aspects of our life in terms of how we think of ourselves, our ego, and all the way obviously down to the physical, like we say. But to the mental and, you know, like your own like kind of emotional or psychological view or image of yourself is filled with untruths.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
And for the physical part, it's easy to catch these things because all you need to do is watch a video of yourself and be like, okay, I'm not doing that right. I'm not doing this right. But we don't really have an equivalent of that for the non-physical things, the mental things. So like, how do you really hold a mirror up to yourself for the mental things? You know what I mean? And this is an issue, I think, that a lot of people run into, and a lot of people have bigger issues with it, obviously, than other people. And you have mental health and all these things, all these issues, but it's because we don't really have that mirror. You know, I don't think a psychiatrist is nearly as reliable and as your own eyes watching a video of your own technique and your own posture as we do with the physical things, right? Because you're relying on someone else's interpretation of that to you, and you can't really see it for yourself. You can't really make your own decisions and judgment and critiques, which is crucial. But and I don't know what the solution to that is, but I think you know, like now that we bring it up, like we have the physical form of it, you can watch yourself, but we don't have that on the mental aspects of things. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, I think a couple of things, right? So going back to your point on, you know, we have the worst seat in that. Like, imagine like you're watching yourself perform. So your life, you're on stage. Your whole life, you're on a stage, and we obviously all want to perform at the best level, and we want to be the best, you know, representative of ourselves. But we have that worst seat, so we can't really see. And I totally agree with that. And then one of the problems is that we sometimes are overcritical and very, very judgmental of ourselves, right? Like if you're a normal person, you're going to beat yourself up about a lot of things. And so you're going to view yourself in the worst, like you're way worse than like any critic of any newspaper, you know, of any magazine, any food critic. Like you are like destroying yourself. You're just shitting all over your performance.
Some people are, we might be, but then there are a lot of people out there that aren't, are filled with delusions of grandeur. You know what I mean? Well, they swing the opposite way.
For sure. But even those that swing the opposite way, there are certain elements that they beat themselves up. So I think like, and I can't say for sure, I'm not a scientist or a psychologist, but it seems to me that most normal people beat themselves up about something or another. Okay. Now I agree at the same time. And so I was also going to say that on the flip side, we probably over exaggerate our capabilities. So when you average everything out, it might be like something somewhat close, if you're not a sociopath or a psychopath. But the problem is that different aspects of your personality, you tend to exaggerate your strengths or underestimate your strengths or exaggerate your weaknesses, right? So that's a really, really big problem. And like I think the sports video analogy is a really spot on one. So how do we do that in terms of the other aspects of our life? Okay. So one of the things is, well, you know, we have this show to hold each other a little bit accountable and to give each other feedback, right? I mean, like that's part of the reason we want to have this show is that three friends that want the best for each other, can talk about these things, and we've known each other for a long time. And like, if we get out of line on something or there's opportunities, even having this conversation today helps us kind of get that feedback in a way.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And then we're having this kind of virtual dialogue with our, listeners and just this broader community of people. I think the other thing is that we're really scared. I like the mirror analogy. We're really scared about what we will see, right? Like, we're scared if we put a mirror up to ourselves, like, that we'll see something or some monster in there. But the reality is that, like, we're not monsters. Like, we should really accept ourselves, I think. Like, it's kind of like the mindfulness stuff. It's like, be kind to yourself. Treat yourself as if you were like a friend. Like, would you treat a friend that harshly? So sometimes we treat ourselves really, really, really badly, right? So, and then just being able to get regular feedback. So like being proactive and going to people that you work with. So the people that maybe no one knows you that well, like you said, it's subject to different interpretations, but you can piece together. So essentially you can go to, let's say that there's like your friends, your coworkers, the people you engage with are in different parts of that theater in a stadium. Okay. So everyone has a different vantage point. Everyone's seeing either the play or the performance, or let's say it's a sporting event, you can see that particular play unfold from a different angle. It's like a referee, right? And so then you have to like triangulate everything together, and then you have to be warm and kind to yourself. Otherwise, it's easy to go to the extreme, I think.
Yeah, you're right. Like I didn't mean for it to come off as like that dramatic in terms of like holding a mirror to yourself and you see a monster. Like I didn't mean to be that dramatic, but you're right. Like we go through life thinking of ourselves as the stars in our own movies, right? Yeah. Your own personal life movie, and we are the hero, we are the protagonist, we're the star, right? But the problem is we never actually get to see that movie. You know what I mean? So we're going in knowing that we're in this movie of our own lives, but we never actually get to see it. So it's like you're kind of blind to how good or bad or the movie really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that analogy. It's brilliant, because to take it a little further, so the problem is that we either view ourselves as like some motherfucking like The Rock, right? Yeah. And like some hero protagonist, and it's unrealistic, and then we get delusions of grandeur, or we view the fucking like movie as some French drama where everyone dies. And so like using that analogy, we kind of have to be a little bit more even keeled and say like, okay, we're in a movie. It's not raining every day in that set, but it's not sunny every day. And we have to be mindful of all of that and be aware and kind of just be in the moment, and not go into the film saying we're going to film, a tragedy. And I think a lot of times, maybe I'm kind of putting my own personal bias into it, just from things that I've struggled with. But I feel like my movie has a lot of rainy days sometimes, fucking unnecessarily.
Like what you're talking about is the narrative of that movie,
yes.
Right? Like you're painting your own narrative.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that way. And like everything in mindfulness is like, you don't have to see all these fucking clouds. There is a blue sky. There is a blue sky, and it's there, and it's always there, but you're the one that's making it rain all the time.
Yeah. My point was more towards, and you're absolutely right, and I think that's really insightful. My point was more like that it wasn't about the narrative of the movie, which is very true, what you're saying. But my point was more about like, you don't really get to see how you're actually performing in that movie.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like, you're in a movie, but you never get to watch yourself in that movie.
And you lose perspective. So imagine like you're this character and you're doing shit every day. And then one time you played the movie back and you're like, why is that motherfucker just like doing like ridiculous, repetitive shit every single day? So if you could see the movie yourself, let's say like you had a unhealthy behavior of eating, or let's say like you had an unhealthy behavior of like, watching TV all day. And if you watch the movie, right? Like a time lapse or something like that. And you would be like, this motherfucker, like it would be so clear that this person has the wrong behaviors. But because you're in it every single day, you don't realize it.
Like you don't realize if you're like the hero or the villain, you know what I mean? Like you don't really know.
Yeah.
You don't know what character you are. You think you're the star.
Yeah.
You think you're the hero in it, but you're never able to actually sit in the seat of the audience to watch that movie to look at it objectively and be like, okay, you know, what role am I playing in the bigger grand scheme of things of this whole movie?